Hey y'all, it's Peggy Lynn Marchetti here at Madison Creek Farms, and it is a gorgeous fall afternoon, and we have been harvesting a lot of fall greens for our CSA farm box. And one of my favorite greens that we have going on right now is fresh kale, and I absolutely love this vegetable. So today I'm going to show you this beautiful little braised kale with some sweet potatoes and some cannellini beans and a sweet red pepper. It is absolutely delicious, so you guys join me and let's get to working on some beautiful kale. So let me take a minute and tell you about kale, because kale is a powerhouse in nutrient-dense vegetables. It is probably the most nutrient-dense vegetable that I have growing here on my farm. This is one of those foods that across the board is incredibly nutritious, and also it's in the cruciferous family. So you'll find broccolis, collard greens, cauliflower, all of those kind of greens are in the cruciferous family. Now kale has a taste all its own, and it can be eaten raw. It can be eaten steamed, sautéed, braised. You can make kale chips with it. You can put it in pastas, soups. You can do a lot of things with kale. So it's very versatile as well. So today I want to tell you about kale as a braise. So I'm going to do this little braise, and I'm going to use some sweet potatoes, a little bit of red pepper, some onions, and some beautiful cannellini beans. And it's really easy to do. So let's get our pan kicked up here and get some heat on it. So you want about a medium-high heat. Go ahead and put a little olive oil in your pan. I'm using this really beautiful light olive oil from the Urban Market, and it is absolutely delicious for this recipe. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get started on my aromatics, and I want to add a little bit of red pepper flakes in my pan with the oil, just to kind of teasing that oil with a little bit of flavor. So my aromatics, so I'm going to go with an onion, and I'm just going to give this onion a dice. Throw all this into my compost bucket here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this little piece off this onion. So I don't need a whole lot of onion. I'm going to go ahead and chop that in half. And then what I want to do is I want to give it a dice, but I want it kind of a bigger dice, because I do want the onion to have some presence in this dish. So I'm just kind of giving it sort of a big dice, going back over it with my knife. And I'm going to hit it in the pan. You hear that sizzle? That's what you want to hear whenever something hits your pan. That way your oil is nice and ready, but also, more than anything, what you've just put in the pan is not soaking up oil. It's actually starting to cook. Perfect. Next, I want to throw in some garlic. And I'm going to kind of go ahead and prep this garlic. I'm using a couple of cloves, but I'm not going to throw it in quite yet, because I do want to get this cooking. I don't want my garlic to burn, so I'm going to wait a minute on throwing in this garlic. Maybe start on the red peppers. Now our CSA got their first batch of sweet potatoes last weekend during their pickup here at the farm. So they have some beautiful sweet potatoes. And I went ahead and just put mine in the oven, 400 degrees, for about 45 minutes, just to kind of get a little bit of bake on it, just to soften it up a little bit before it goes into this braise, this kale braise. Because sweet potatoes take a little longer to break down, but they're so delicious. And we're going to add a little bit of kind of a fall pumpkin spice as well to it. So this little vein that you find in your peppers, just go ahead and run your knife and take that out. And that way what you can do is you can get a whole lot better control over dicing up these red peppers. And that vein is not there. It's not very attractive. And it really doesn't add anything. same thing. This little vein, just go ahead and run your knife up and just go ahead and cut it out. That way you'll get a nice clean cut. Claw fingers back, always thumb to the rear. That's the hardest thing to remember, is putting that thumb back. You will if you, like me, and you've, your knife has caught it a couple of times. Perfect. So we've got some red peppers in here. That's going to add a lot of sweet flavor. And it's also going to add some color to this. So next I'm going to go ahead and throw in my beautiful fresh garlic in here. I think I might add just a little bit more olive oil. Perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and prep my kale. Now this is kind of really young kale, baby kale. So I don't have to do a whole lot of prepping, but there are a couple of them that have kind of some bigger stems. Now if they're smaller stems like this, you can just cut the whole thing up. But when you start to dealing with the bigger, this is the Red Russian, a bigger stem, you really need to kind of remove that stem because it's going to take longer for it to cook. And it also kind of gives it this kind of crunchy thing that you don't really want that going on. So I'm just separating it out a little bit, and then I'm just going to kind of start tearing it off these bigger stems. Just run your hand over it, tear those stems out. You could cut them out as well, but it's just much easier for me this way, especially as much kale as I deal with. So you just take the stem and you're just going to pull that stem off and just kind of take that right off there. And this is going to eliminate having that great big stem, this vein right in there. Now kale, there's so many different kinds of kale. So, you know, there's in this bunch I have some Winterbourne kale, I have some Red Russian kale, it's kind of a kale mix. I have some Siberian kale, all mixed in together. And you know, there's some beautiful colors, you know, that with the dinosaur kales and all of those beautiful kinds of kale. And they all have their own unique little flavor. Now they all kind of taste like kale. It's kind of like tomatoes. Some are just different than others, you know, some of the different varieties, you're going to get a little subtle difference here and there. Well, that's kind of what kale does. It kind of gives you this really subtle, beautiful, different taste with the different kinds of varieties. So we try to grow several different varieties of kale just to get it mixed up. And kale is really beautiful. So if you have an edible landscape plan in your backyard or in your front yard, you know, I always encourage to, when you're going to plant, you know, plant some edibles. Not only are kale, especially Red Russian kale and Swiss chard, so beautiful as a plant, they're edible. So they have dual uses. So you're not really wasting anything by having them. Go out and cut a few flowers, cut a little kale. It's gorgeous. So all I'm doing is sauteing. So I just threw this kale in and I'm just kind of getting it sauteed up a little bit, mixing it in with that oil. And at this point, what I want to do, because I'm going to do this, I have just a little bit more to add in here, but I want to go ahead and add a little bit of apple cider vinegar, just a capful. And you're not going to taste the vinegar, but what it is going to do, it's going to break down those leaves, the acidity, and it's also going to sweeten it up just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Oh, all these, I don't have them marked. A little bit of pepper right on top, and this is a little bit of sugar, just right on top, just to kind of sweeten it up just a little. Now, sugar and vinegar are really a secret to good greens. Just a little bit. You don't have to, so all of y'all that are shaking your head over that sugar, you can use honey, but it does help. especially when it gets into mustard greens and things that have a little bit more of a bite to it. It really helps to make those greens nice and sweet. All right, I'm just going to finish cutting up some kale here. Take out these bigger stems. Just like that. Echo and Iris took the first walk up into our woods this morning. It was great. So now to this, here comes the braise. Now I'm going to let this kind of cook for just a second because I want to get these greens a little sauteed in here, wilted down. But a braise is basically cooking in liquid. That's all a braise is. And when I do a braise, especially on greens, I'm not looking for this really soupy thing. I'm just adding enough liquid to sort of to braise these greens, get them nice and soft. So they're not chewy. They're not this chewy kind of thing. It's perfect. So this is just some vegetable stock. Give it a little bit of mix. And then I'm just going to pour probably a third of a cup to a half a cup in there. And then I'm going to turn it down. Turn that eye down. And then I'm just going to bring it to a simmer. Now, you can cover this now if you want. But it's this beautiful, just enough liquid just to kind of get it nice and, my eye was down, nice and simmery, but not to where it's boiling. That's not what I want. I want to take some time here and really make a nice dish. So now we're going to work on our sweet potato. Now, I will tell you, when I was prepping for this video, I wanted this sweet potato to be kind of al dente, and I got busy starting on, it's the end of the year, so we're bringing in lots of harvest before the freeze takes them all out, and I got busy prepping some parsley to go into my dehydrator, and I forgot my sweet potato was in my stove. So it's a little softer than I would want, but that's okay. Oh, love. So all I'm gonna do is cube it. I want these nice big hunks of sweet potato, because the thing about these one pot dishes and these veggie dishes is that you want them to be nice and hearty, and you want lots of things going on to them. So you're gonna want those cannellini beans. They add another layer of flavor and something else, a more protein to this dish. So this is a great little vegetarian dish that is absolutely delicious. To this, I'm gonna add just a little bit of nutritional yeast. Now, nutritional yeast, again, adding lots of nutritional value, but it also gives it this nice kind of cheesy flavor. I can't really describe it. It's just a really good, nice little flavor. So because I'm not going to add any Parmesan cheese in here, it just gives it this nice kind of cheesy flavor that's not like overbearing. Also, speaking of the end of the season, all of that, I've been dehydrating the last of the tomatoes, and these were yesterday. I was dehydrating these. I'm gonna go ahead and pop those in here. So just a few little dried tomatoes. Nice, add a nice little, not really smoky, because I didn't smoke them. I just dehydrated them down into they're kind of chewy. But the thing about them, just like sun-dried tomatoes, they're robust. It kind of really enhances and makes that flavor more intense when you dry them. So I've got that kind of going on. Now I'm going to add in my cannellini beans. Beautiful. So now that I have this happening though, what I want to do is I want to start adding some flavors. So I'm going to hit them again with a little bit of pepper. This is that really coarse pepper, so a little bit goes a long way. A little more salt. And then I'm going to add some of this Peak Paleo powder, which I love, and I'll leave a link where you can get it from. But it's absolutely delicious, especially with dishes like this. Just kind of giving that a mix. And my sweet potatoes will go in last. So what I'm doing is I'm going to cook this down until all the liquid is absorbed in those leaves. So another maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then I'm going to throw in the sweet potatoes, and then I'm going to add a little pumpkin spice right on top, because that's going to be the nice fall. Also, right now, before I forget, this is a little bit of curry powder. And curry powder is absolutely delicious, and I only use a little bit with this. With curry powder, with these sweet potatoes, and this kale, it's delicious. It adds another little flavor onto this that makes this a meal. I mean, beautiful. Or your side dish or a meal. Actually, this is going to be mine and Mark's dinner tonight. Yep, fall's here. So y'all come on back and let's finish this up. So we're about ready to start adding our sweet potatoes in. So I'm just going to take them. So again, I kind of overcooked my sweet potatoes in my oven because I got distracted kind of preserving. We had a lot of herbs, fresh herbs to get out of the field before this freeze. I want to add just a little bit of pumpkin spice, just again giving it that nice kind of fall flavors. Now you don't need to add a lot. I'm just adding a couple pinches. I just want a hint of it right on top. And that is it. We are done. And it is a gorgeous. So let me get this plated up. I want you to take a look at how beautiful that is. Yum. So let's get it plated up. Let's try a bite. So I want to get this plated so you can see just how gorgeous this dish is. I mean, not only is it absolutely delicious, it is such a showstopper plated. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Take a look how beautiful this is. It's beautiful. So let's do the taste test. I already know that this is delicious. This is not my first time with this. I so love the hint of curry in this dish. And I'll tell you, also that the pumpkin pie spice is just light enough that I can taste the cinnamon, I can taste the cloves, but it's not overpowering. The kale is absolutely sweet, delicious. The tomatoes, the dried tomatoes, also the cannellini beans. This, my friend, is a fall CSA.